Well, this is Team to Team, presented by Cigna, a proud partner of your Arizona Cardinals. I'm Darren Urban. I'm joined with Cam Inman here, the Bay Area News Group. And Cam, we appreciate you joining us to talk a little 49ers and Cardinals before the first game of the season. And there's a lot of talk about Super Bowl hangover, especially for the teams that lose the game. What's kind of your sense of where the 49ers are coming off a tough loss in the Super Bowl?
It is a tough loss, and that's like even right after the game, George Kittle was saying this is going to be a revenge tour, right? There was no talk of, oh, they weren't, drowning their sorrows. They were pissed, and you have pretty much the same team back from last year, and a lot of those guys on that team are playing for a new contract still. There's a lot of free agents coming up in 2021. So there's no question that the championship hunger is still there. They don't feel like the window all of a sudden shut. They feel, it's wide open right now. You have your coach, you have your GM, you have your quarterback, we think, and you have George Kittle, your tight end. But you also have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they have a tremendous defensive front, and everything behind them with the linebackers and the safeties and the cornerbacks, they all benefit from that. So I get a sense that they are very excited to get back on the field to rectify what they did wrong in the last 7 minutes of the Super Bowl.
You mentioned George Kittle. That's a name that around the Cardinals causes a lot of concern. It should cause a concern for any defense in the NFL these days. But for the Cardinals, which they just struggled mightily against all tight ends last year, gave up 16 touchdown catches to tight ends. I'm curious where you kind of see George Kittle now and if the things the Cardinals have done to try and fix that defensively might impact any of this.
He got paid this offseason, so he got his five-year, $75 million contract. He has had tremendous success against a lot of teams. I think he has about 8 100-yard games, none of them against the Arizona Cardinals, mind you. He did have a pretty good game last Halloween before he hurt his ankle and his knee, and that knocked him out for 2 games. So he might have a little bit more fire in his belly to take on the Cardinals because of that. Now, what the Cardinals have done to try to stop him, besides Buddha, and you got Isaiah Simmons coming in now, I like that. The Niners' counter argument is, well, they brought in Jordan Reed, another tight end, and he's healthy. And if Jordan Reed's healthy, you have a dynamic tight end fandom. And they're going to need that if Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, their top 2 wide receivers, are not able to play. Then you go with Kittle and Jordan Reed. They have a few other weapons that Kyle Shanahan is going to unveil. You bring in back Jerick McKinnon and Trent Taylor, who did not play last season because of injuries. You have a couple other guys ready to go. And Shanahan's, like, I was on the radio today, and I was referring to him as like a mixologist at a bar, right? He's got all these ingredients, and you never know. It's kind of like, okay, I'll drink this. I'm not sure I'm going to like it, but I trust you. And that's where 49er fans are right now with him entering this 4th year, as long as we don't get to the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl, and then people are just going to be closing their eyes again.
You also mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo earlier. They have the quarterback, they think. So is Jimmy G the quarterback that threw 8 passes in the NFC Championship, or is he the quarterback who threw 8 touchdown passes in 2 games against the Cardinals?
Both. And here's the thing. In the NFC Championship game, there was really no reason for him to pass. The Packers' run defense was abysmal. And so it's almost like, why do we want to show them what we can do passing the ball? We don't want to show everything to the Chiefs. They probably have already seen anything, but everything was working great running the ball. It was not an issue whether he was injured or not, right? That's one thing that was big concern last year with Garoppolo, because he was coming off a rebuilt knee, he had torn his ACL early in the 2018 season. So last year was more about getting him through a whole season healthy. He'd never done that as a starter in the NFL. So now there's talk of, okay, now we're in year 2 of Jimmy Garoppolo in the Shanahan system, even though he's been since 2017, right? He went 5-0 in December of 2017. 3 games into 2018, he blew his ACL out. So now this is technically his 2nd full year. And the whole expectation is he's going to do the 2nd year bounce that Matt Ryan did with the Atlanta Falcons in 2016. Won MVP, got him to the Super Bowl. Even Matt Schaub had like a career year, I think it was in 2008 or 2009, with Shanahan in his 2nd year. So, and Shanahan likes to think that way too, but he also says, well, it's not just Jimmy. Everybody's been in the system, that extra time. So it breeds to everybody. Now, the whole thing with Garoppolo in the offseason was he finished the Super Bowl poorly. And I think he was 3 of 11 in the 4th quarter. So there were a lot of questions about that. He overthrew Emmanuel Sanders deep, and Sanders didn't dive for the ball, which is another issue. But then Tom Brady enters the picture, right? His old buddy from New England almost stole his job. I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen. If they're friends, you don't think Tom's going to come in here and take his job. Maybe Tom was doing him a favor, showing him, look, they really believe in you, Jimmy. Stay with them. So then the Niners are invested in Jimmy for another year. If they want to get out of this contract, they can do so next year. He's making about $24 million a year, which compared to these other quarterbacks that have gotten paid in the last couple of weeks, it's a bargain, right? I mean, they're getting $40 million a year. Jimmy's getting 24, and he's got a Super Bowl contender, that he's dealing with.
The protecting Jimmy Garoppolo now is Trent Williams. Obviously, the Cardinals have Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones is not only coming off a 19-sack season, he's making rumblings, which from our side is a little surprising. Chandler Jones has never been a braggart in any way, shape, or form. He usually never puts numbers on anything when he talks about goals. And then he actually at one point says, yeah, I want to chase the sack record for one season and all this, which surprised me, surprised a lot of us. But obviously he's got that in the forefront of his head. But he starts the season against Trent Williams, who it seems like all the reports I've seen say that Trent Williams has been pretty good. I mean, that doesn't Fox have to have a camera just dedicated to those two guys this weekend?
I think so. I mean, and I'll brag on myself. I've covered the team for over 20 years. I don't think I've ever seen an offensive lineman come in with the immediate impact Trent Williams has. And we've only seen him in practice for a couple of weeks, right? Didn't play last year in his final year in Washington. He comes in, he looks like in tremendous shape, looks super powerful. The cool thing about him is he has the passion again for the game. He obviously is an elite left tackle. But he's going against Nick Bosa in these early training camp practices, which has been really fun to watch. It's like pay-per-view. That's the way it should be. But the way they talk about each other and how respectful and what makes them so great is what the 49ers need to hear, because, Trent's coming in place of Joe Staley, who was on the team for 13 years at left tackle. And to say that they upgraded that position, He looks just athletically dominant. And that left side of the line, Laken Tomlinson's their left guard now. All of a sudden, everybody is going to find out Laken Tomlinson's pretty good because he's playing next to Trent Williams, right? And then you got George Kittle next to him, or Jordan Reed. The Niners are in great position with that. And I talked to Trent last week about facing Chandler Jones. And there's a lot of respect there. And there is, he loves the fact he's going to be going up against possibly the NFL's best sack artist, because it's going to give him a gauge on where he's at in his comeback. And I think it is going to be fascinating to watch. As fascinating as it's going to be watch Nick Bosa on the other side against the Cardinals offensive tackles.
That's probably a good place to kind of wrap this up when you mentioned the other side of the ball. 49ers have a great defense. They had a great pass rush. Kyler Murray was NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had a very solid season. He has things to learn. He has to take less sacks. He said this week, he had 48 sacks against him last year. The goal is to cut it in half. I think if he makes the proper decisions, he's got a chance to do that. He did have a couple of decent games against the 49ers in terms of passer rating. It was over 100 both times. Everybody's expecting Kyler Murray to take this jump this year. There's a lot of national people are even expecting him, maybe a dark horse MVP candidate. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I'm curious from the other side, knowing what the 49ers have on defense, what does this first game look like from your perspective?
In terms of Kyler Murray, here's the thing with the 49ers defensive front. They traded away DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts, and he was one-time Pro Bowler, second-team All-Pro, but he's going to have a great career. So the question is, how do they replace him with that interior push? Because Buckner could get through there, right? And then you flush Kyler Murray out towards Nick Bosa and Dee Ford coming in at him. They're going to have a different kind of combination of guys going up the middle. They drafted Javon Kinlaw as their new defensive tackle, but he's a rookie. I don't think he's an every down guy, so they're going to be rotating different players in. But again, it is about the edges, the speed on the edge, and that they're going to try to pin Murray in. I mean, that's the right thing to do. And this team, as great as they were defensively last year, they did have some trouble with mobile quarterbacks, whether it was Kyler Murray, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Lamar Jackson, whether it's Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. There are ways to get around the 49ers defense like that. But it is a very familiar defense that they know. I think they know what they're getting in Kyler Murray. So there's not a surprise element that there was last year. So they know where he wants to escape. That's what Bosa told us the other day. So
It'll be interesting to see how this all goes. This whole game is going to be interesting, Cam. I would say I'm looking forward to seeing you Sunday. I don't know 100% if I'm actually going to physically see you, given where you and I might be in the press box.
Right.
But I will be out there. I assume you'll be out there, and I hope you're staying safe, and I hope everything happens so that there's actually a game. So I appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure, Darren. Safe travels. Everybody stay safe and healthy. Enjoy the season. We got a season going.
That's true. That's a great point. Thanks, Cam.
All right, thanks.